The 700-gallon aquarium has ended in disaster, but certainly did start off with a good plan. We've got to kind of start over because I made a massive mess of this tank. I wasn't really factoring in how the heck am I going to get it done. I know what I want to do, but one thing to know what you want to do, it's another thing to actually execute on it. And I say that because this was a really difficult type of scape to do. The tank is huge. It's impossible for me to kind of do anything in here. I can't get around. But so I've decided we'll take everything out of the tank. We'll scape it properly. And then we'll put it all back in. The goal here is just to kind of spread everything out a little bit better because it's just an absolute mess in here right now. We can't have that. Just using a dustpan to kind of move things around, pile it up better. I'm going to be covered in mud though. That's fine. Not a big deal. I want to uncover these roots a heck of a lot more. I will at least have a better foundation now, and I can start there and work myself back. I'm going to be putting moss on all the crevices, so we're not going to see them eventually. Now, of course, that plan was to make it look like a tree is coming out of the aquarium. Have some roots all around it and plant all around it. I realized that in order for me to plant this, I can't have any water in it, but if I want to have the rocks, which are going to float if I don't evacuate the air, I have to have water in it. I decided, let's focus on the plants, let's get them up and going, and then we'll circle back in a month or two and add in the rest of the scape, followed by the fish. With the tank kind of cleared up now and the substrate really figured out, I started adding the plants, which were cryptocorin green as well as dwarf chain sword. But once planted, I realized we're going to need some more plants, so I went to aquascaperoom.ca and picked up some more Amazon swords. Got them in the back of the tank. And then, within 10 days, that massive influx of nutrients being added into 700 gallons of water with only 200 plants. 200 plants is a lot of plants, incredibly expensive, but it's only 200 in a 700-gallon tank. Now, when it comes to 700 gallons of water, you guys know things change a lot slower than it would in a 70-gallon. If I adjust the lights, it's going to take about a week for me to notice the difference. If I adjust the CO2, it will take all day before I can kind of dial it in. But the effect it'll have, whether I need to use more or less, again, is going to take another week. I eventually did get the lights dialed in. I need to have them about 18 inches from the water surface, and they need to be at around 70% of their total brightness. The CO2, we use a 10-pound CO2 tank, and we go through 1 pound of CO2 a day, meaning that we're going through 10 pounds of CO2 every 10 days. And just to get the CO2 up to where it needs to be for when the lights turn on, it needs to be running for 3 hours before the lights even come on. So you could imagine how much CO2 we're truly burning through. And at the end of 10 days, that CO2 tank burnt out, which is fine. I have several. We just disconnect this, hook it up to the new CO2 tank that I bought and had it filled. However, right around the seal, when I did that, the CO2 was empty. The tank was completely empty. So I brought in my empty CO2 tanks, and they discovered that the one that was leaking can't be filled anymore. It just continuously leaks. It has to be sent off for repairs. The other one, they tried to fill it, and all of a sudden that one's leaking. So then I had to buy brand new 10-pound CO2 tanks for about $250 a piece, but they didn't have any in stock and took around 10 days for them to get them. So the first 10 days of me trying to dial things in and finally getting things to work, then the tank went with no CO2. I tried dimming the lights, but after that, and waiting for the new CO2 to come, with the plants like really starting to grow, I started dealing with hair algae. Not only was this scape really difficult to do because I had to kind of figure out how I'm going to get in the tank or lean over the tank and plant 200 plants, but then the CO2 issues, and before I knew it, the tank is now filled with hair algae. Every single day for around 2 hours, I come out and I manually remove it. I just did it last night and look at it right now. Hair algae everywhere. However, you'll notice that there's really no melting. It's just hair algae. We can see tons of new growth. Everything's technically doing fine. However, To combat it over the last month, not only am I adjusting CO2, figuring things out, I've gone through 2 tanks of CO2 now, I've moved the outputs and inputs around, I've tried different flow patterns with the wave maker, and no matter what I do, after I remove all of this, it just keeps coming back. And let me remind you that I'm entering this aquarium into a competition, and now I have less than 60 days. I think I have closer to 50 days. So that's why I'm kind of rushing and panicking, but if you can notice, the scape's not even close or remotely even close to being done. We do have large tree roots coming out of the branch that actually stand up more than 14 inches in the tank, or more than 12 inches for sure, just to give it more depth. And I was going to add in some more branches and whatnot. I would have had to uproot some plants, but the main goal was to have it look like this tree's coming all the way down to about 70% of the tank and have the plants naturally spread this way. But over the course of the last month, with adjusting things in the aquarium and the flow rates, it's blown the substrate everywhere. I've decided there's only one thing left for me to do with this tank. Drain the tank, strip out all the plants and properly clean them, probably in a peroxide dip, completely take out all of the scaping supplies and or at least just that tree trunk and its 2 roots, and move on to plan B. Plan B is a completely different rescape and stocking plans. And that's what I'm going to do next. Now I'm starting to get nervous, and I not only have less than 50 days to make this look good, but with the new plans and stocking and idea that I have is actually really, really awesome and cool. But now I know that I'm not going to rank as high as I wanted to. You see, I'm not trying to win the entire competition. If you want to join or register, links in the description. But I'm trying to rank number 1 in Canada, or at least top 10 in Canada. Because last year there was only 10 entrants to Canada and like only 20 or 30 Americans entered. The contest is free to enter, and you can see where you rank worldwide. But what I think is fun is if we all are competing against each other as friendly competition, and I know what you want, the bragging rights to say, I beat Joey, I'm the better aquascaper, blah, 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 blah. So here's something for the Canadians out there, because I'm headhunting you so much as you'll be headhunting me. If you beat me, and once you've registered, you can block out like all your address or whatever, but if you can prove you registered with a screenshot and send it to me on Instagram, and if you outrank me, like if I get 1,500 and you get 1,439 or whatever the case might be, Aqua Design and Mono is going to create a poster of your aquarium. They're going to ship it to me. I'm going to sign it and maybe put a little message on the back or something. I won't sign the front. It'll be up to you, I guess. I can't do each individually. It'll have to be, I'm signing the front and a message on the back, or everything on the back so I don't ruin your picture, but it's a poster of your aquarium that you beat me with. I'm going to send it back to ADA, and then they're going to ship it directly to you, which will be really cool. Contest runs from April 1st until May 31st. That's when you can enter along those 2 months. And then winners, etc., are announced in a little while. I'm a little excited because I like the pressure of these things. I will also admit that I went through the same thing with the piranha tank. I went through when it was the piranha tank. I went through it with the 16-foot piranha tank, and now all the plants are doing fantastic. It just takes time, but it took 5 months previously for things to balance out and fill out and look glorious, but I did it without CO2. I figure I can cut that time in half with using CO2, and now that I've got it dialed and figured out, I think I'm going to have far more luck. And if you want to join me on this journey that I've created for myself, subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up. I'll see you guys in the next video.